This is a complete and balanced diet. We hear this in virtually all advertising about pet food. In this video, we will examine exactly what that means. In order to fully understand what this means, you need to know a bit about the pet food industry. The pet food industry started with a range of cooked or baked cookies. Products like these were promoted as the best food for dogs. In actual fact, it was so devoid of real nutrition that many degenerative food-based diseases started to show up. Undaunted, though, the makers set out to understand where the product was deficient through a process called feeding trials. The feeding trials were set up with, at best, a dubious structure that allows for the exit of many test subjects and were of a short period of time, only about 6 months. From these feeding trials, a basic nutrient profile was developed. Initially, there were several around the world, all with varying degrees of similar components. In the US, the AAFCO and the NRC standard were recognized, but the AAFCO standard has basically taken over by proxy. In Canada, the CVMA standard was used for some time, but has since been taken over by the AAFCO as well, due to the large volume of products from the US sold in Canada, and the desire of the Canadian manufacturers wanting to export to the US. So what are these standards? It's a list of 34 nutrients that must appear to varying degrees, with some having upper limits as well. The amount of these nutrients varies based on the total caloric value of the product. So the higher the energy value of the product, the more of these nutrients must be available. What is interesting to us in this discussion is that in nature no actual animal or combination of animals and plants meets this criteria. This is not to say that these standards cannot be met by raw pet food producers. They will, however, require some chemical supplementation. As well, consideration of what healthy canines in the wild are meals used by successful breeders pre-1900 were not applied when developing the standard. So in fact, the term complete and balanced has nothing to do with what a normal canine would or should be eating. Its definition is simply that the food has enough of the individual components represented by the standard. A standard that was developed not to replicate the best meal for a canine or feline, but was meant to ensure the large gaps left in the nutrient profile of the cooked pet food were somewhat filled. The next time you see this terminology being applied, remember this does not mean a diet based on the best food for your pet. It simply means the gaps in the nutrient profile and deficiency caused by some of the components is compensated for chemically. In other videos, we will go on to examine the basis for some of these values, as well give some explanation as why they may not always apply to raw pet food products.